Y'all ain't gonna believe what's happening right now in the rap game. Lil Durk's confession tape just leaked online, and trust me, this ain't no ordinary leak. I'm talking files that were supposed to stay buried. Raw, uncut. Voices trembling over truths that could shake Chicago, shake the streets, shake the whole industry. Y'all seen that clip of him talking about loyalty like it's life or death. That's just the tip. Let me tell you what really went down. Word is, the tape hit a private server weeks ago, and somewhere between a late-night studio session and a group chat, someone pressed send. Boom, the internet ignited. Fans screaming, blogs exploding, rumors running faster than a getaway car down 63rd Street. And the crazy part, half of it sounds like confession, the other half sounds like threat. You hear him say things you weren't supposed to hear, people getting called out by name, promises breaking on record like glass. But here's what makes it wild. This ain't just about music. This is power, this is money, this is bloodlines and street code all tangled up in verses and voice memos. And every time you think you understand what's happening, another clip drops, and suddenly the story flips. People you thought were loyal, people you trusted. Nah, they're moving different, and y'all already know, once Durk speaks, it ain't just words. It's a blueprint, a map of the streets, the studio, and the shadow games behind the fame. And believe me, what's happening right now, way deeper than it looks, way deeper than the headlines, way deeper than the likes and retweets. It all started in a studio tucked away on the south side, one of those spots where the walls are plastered with gold records but the air still smells like weed and anxiety. Durk was pacing back and forth, phone in hand, headphones hanging around his neck, and you could feel the tension in the room like static electricity. Someone from his circle leaked a clip the week before. Nothing major, just a line or two from an unreleased verse. But Durk wasn't playing. He knew what leaks could do. One wrong line, one mention of a name, and suddenly the whole narrative shifts. You said what? I told you about my respect. He snapped at a kid sitting on the corner of the couch, hands shaking, trying to explain it was an accident. The kid just nodded, eyes wide, but Durk wasn't done. Nah, this ain't over, bro. You ever think before you touch my work? That night, the studio lights burned low, and the tape started to form in his mind before it even hit the recording software. It wasn't just songs. It was confession. Not the type you drop for clout or streams, but the kind where every word counts. Every pause could start a war. He started speaking freely, documenting the loyalty he had seen break, the people who owed him and forgot, the streets that raised him and tried to take him down in the same breath. The camera might have been off, the mic might have been off, but the words were alive, and someone somewhere captured them. People forget, but Chicago isn't just a city, it's a test. You move wrong once, and the streets remind you quickly. Durk knew this. He had lost friends, survived ambushes, and seen the betrayal of people he once called family. When the tape leaked, the internet didn't just hear music, they heard strategy, survival, and raw emotion. I've been real, I've been loyal, but some of y'all don't even know what that means, Durk says at one point, voice calm but heavy. And the beauty of it, the danger of it, was that it felt so normal. Like this is just another studio session, another track, but layered under it is truth that can't be erased. The origin of the tension wasn't new. It started with money and respect, the twin currencies of the game. One night, over dinner in the back of a dimly lit restaurant, a former associate allegedly flipped on a deal. It wasn't about the cash, it was about who had power. Durk had invested in people, backed them through times no one else would, and suddenly it felt like the loyalty was one-sided. I put everything on the line for you. And this is how you move? He whispered into the phone later, barely audible. But someone clipped it. The streets have ears, always. From there, the story started to spiral. Small arguments caught on camera, group chats blowing up with threats, names being dropped and deleted faster than anyone could track. There were nights where Durk would sit alone, staring at the ceiling, replaying conversations in his head. The tape captures moments like that. Pause after pause, a man weighing his decisions, thinking about the ripple effect. And somewhere between those pauses, the tape becomes confession and prophecy at the same time. Loyalty and fear intertwine on this tape. One minute, Durk is talking about people who stood by him in the trenches. The next, he's naming names of those who betrayed him. And you can hear the tension in his tone, like he's balancing between forgiving and exposing. Some people don't understand what silence costs, he says in a voice that's almost casual, but every word hits like a bullet. The people listening feel it. They're caught between admiration and dread. The leaks themselves were strategic. Snippets showed up on socials, encrypted accounts, even group messages that weren't meant to go public. Each leak seemed random, but there was a method. It's like Durk wanted the world to see the game from his eyes, to understand the chessboard, not just the pieces moving around. The fans speculated, the blogs ran headlines, but nobody could connect all the dots. And that's what made it dangerous. The tape wasn't just music, it was intelligence. And then there's the psychological layer. Durk's words aren't just threats or name drops, they're reflections. "I've been carrying weight nobody else can see," he admits at one point, almost to himself. It's the weight of leadership, of being the face of a movement while navigating people who want a piece of your success and your downfall at the same time. The tape captures that tension, that duality. It's rare to hear someone talk about ego, pride, fear, and responsibility in the same breath while still sounding grounded. Family enters the picture too, not just the biological kind, but the street kind. People he's raised, taught, protected, and sometimes disciplined. One leaked clip has him telling someone, "If you fold, don't come back." It's a simple line, but the implication is enormous. The tape records every beat, the loyalty that's sacred, the betrayal that's fatal, the respect that's earned, and the respect that's demanded. As part of the escalation, the online world exploded. Forums, TikTok, Twitter Spaces, people dissecting every word like it was scripture. And somewhere in the mix, the narrative about Durk as a leader, as a survivor, as a storyteller, started to solidify. It wasn't just a rap story anymore. It was a lesson in street intelligence, in managing loyalty, in surviving the games people play when cameras aren't rolling. And through it all, the calm, deadly voice of Durk anchors the tape. You hear him, and it feels like he sees everything, even what you think you see. But here's what people don't understand. This moment right here changed everything. Durk didn't just make a tape. He created a record of accountability. Every betrayal, every failure, every victory, every calculation is there. The streets might have tried to define him. The industry might have tried to frame him. But the tape, this leaked confession, shows the map behind the moves. It's intimate, dangerous, illuminating. It's as much about what's unsaid as what's said. And it ends the first night of recording with Durk alone in the studio. The lights dim, headphones on, voice low, almost a whisper. They go no soon enough. They go know everything. You can feel it, the anticipation, the tension, the kind of calm before a storm that doesn't announce itself with sirens but with whispers, leaks, and small explosions that eventually grow into something unstoppable. And that's where we leave it for now, right on the edge. The tape is out there, but the story is just beginning. What seems like a music leak is really a blueprint of loyalty, ego, fear, and survival. The streets are listening, the industry is watching, and Durk, he's already moving to the next step, while everyone else is trying to catch up. The pieces are on the board, and the game is about to get real fast. The morning after the first leaks, the city felt different. The air on the south side was heavier, like everyone could sense the storm coming. Durk's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Messages from associates, friends, even people he barely knew, all asking the same question. Did he hear what dropped last night? The clips had already made their way through encrypted chats, and some wild-eyed fans had managed to upload snippets online. One line from the tape alone, a quiet threat about loyalty and respect, sent the comments, "If you cross me, you don't get a second chance." That line alone sparked paranoia. Friends were suddenly questioning friends. Alliances shifted in group chats overnight, and a subtle war began, silent, digital, and unpredictable. The turning point wasn't in the city, it was in the studio. Durk invited a couple of his closest people over to discuss what had happened. The tension was palpable. One associate, known for his quick temper, couldn't hold back. "You said what in that tape? You exposing people?" Durk looked him dead in the eye, calm as ever. "Nah, I ain't exposing. I'm documenting. Truth don't need permission." The associate shifted in his seat, realizing he was more exposed by his own guilt than Durk's words. But the drama didn't stop there. Somewhere between arguments and silence, the tape began to attract attention from people outside the circle. Industry figures, journalists, even rival crews. The narrative was no longer just about music. It was about power. Who controlled information, controlled perception, and perception in the streets is everything. One night, a friend sent Durk a message with a single line. "They trying to turn this into a war." He didn't reply immediately. He just sat back, letting the words sink in. The emotional beats of this period were raw. Fear, ego, pride, and loyalty collided in ways that weren't always visible. One leaked snippet has Durk speaking softly about family and survival. "I protect mine, always. But you play with mine, you play with fire." There's a rhythm to it, a lesson layered beneath the casual cadence of his speech. Loyalty isn't just a word, it's action, and betrayal isn't just disrespect. It's life or death in some circles. As the tape spread, small confrontations began to emerge. Friends who had previously turned a blind eye now started positioning themselves, trying to protect their interests. One evening, Durk confronted a former ally in a parking lot. The exchange was brief but tense. "You foldin' now?" "Thought we was family," Durk said, voice low, measured. The man tried to laugh it off, but his hands betrayed him. Fidgeting, shaking, caught in the gravity of the moment. "Nah, this ain't over, bro," Durk added, walking away before a fight could even start. The message was clear. Words on the tape weren't just sounds. They were contracts, warnings, and maps of consequence. Meanwhile, the psychological layer deepened. Durk's recordings revealed a man who understood human nature like a chess player. He talked about people wanting what he had, wanting his energy, his time, and his influence. "Some of these people go and smile in your face while plotting your fall," he says in one clip. The tape became an anatomy of trust and deception, dissecting every action, every look, every hesitation. The listener could almost feel themselves inside Durk's mind, weighing loyalty against self-preservation, pride against paranoia. As days passed, the leak had a ripple effect on his music releases. Some tracks were delayed, some collaborations paused, all because the tape demanded attention. Everyone involved had to recalibrate. Managers, producers, and other artists started treating Durk differently. There was caution in meetings, hesitation in conversations. Even industry power players realized they were witnessing something bigger than a typical drop. They were watching a masterclass in influence and authority, disguised as a confession. The people closest to him felt the strain. Nights in the studio stretched longer. Arguments flared over lines that never hit a track, and phone calls ended abruptly when someone's loyalty was questioned. Durk, as always, stayed calm but deadly, a silent observer of the chaos that the tape had ignited. In one recorded moment, he remarks quietly, "Some people don't survive the truth. Some people can't handle being seen." The weight of leadership, of responsibility, and of vision pressed down, and every choice had to be calculated. And then there was the street fallout. Rumors began circulating in local circles, some true, some exaggerated. The tape was being dissected like evidence in a case. Rival crews debated its meaning. Friends whispered about possible consequences, and fans speculated endlessly online. Every leak, every snippet, every line seemed to grow in power with each retelling. The tape wasn't just a recording, it was a living document, reshaping perception, testing alliances, and demanding respect. Durk's dialogue in these moments carries a rhythm of moral authority mixed with street wisdom. "I ain't out here to make enemies. I'm out here to see who really riding with me," he says at one point. It's calm, measured, but lethal in its implication. Loyalty isn't assumed. It's verified. Ego isn't flattered. It's measured. And fear? Fear is a tool, not a weakness. The escalation reached a peak when an encrypted clip was posted online with a voice barely recognizable, talking about betrayals in business deals, personal relationships, and street politics. The industry gasped. Fans speculated. Some tried to decode it. Everyone wanted to know, who is he talking about? Who's next? And Durk's calm, deliberate approach made it clear. He was always 2 steps ahead, letting people expose themselves while he observed, recording reactions like a scientist studying human behavior. The first storm of confrontation hit quietly but intensely. A former associate tried to confront him publicly, misreading the tape as an invitation for a fight. Durk handled it with precision. "This ain't about proving nothing to you. This is about knowing where we stand," he said, voice low. No shouting, no theatrics. The man walked away, humbled, and the streets learned a lesson. Words carry weight, and weight carries consequence. The scene is set for the next phase. The tape has fully entered public consciousness. Rivalries simmer, friendships fracture, and Durk remains calm but calculated, like a general watching the battlefield from a distance. What started as a recording session has become a movement, a test of loyalty, and a demonstration of the power of truth when wielded strategically. The storm is far from over, and the pieces are moving faster than anyone could anticipate. The days after the second wave of leaks felt like a pressure cooker ready to blow. Durk was moving differently now, quieter in public, but every step calculated. People noticed it. The way he scanned rooms, how he talked in short, precise sentences, how he let others reveal themselves before he spoke. It wasn't paranoia, it was strategy. The tape had exposed more than just his thoughts. It had exposed reactions, and those reactions told him everything he needed to know. The spiral of betrayal hit hard. One of his longtime collaborators, someone Durk had invested in since the early days, got caught talking to rival crews about his moves. "They trying to play me?" the collaborator asked, smirking, not realizing that Durk had already heard the whole conversation, recorded and replayed in his head countless times. When Durk confronted him, the exchange was tense. "I ain't mad about what you did. I'm mad that you thought I wouldn't notice," Durk said, voice calm but cutting. The collaborator's grin faded. "Nah, this ain't over, bro," Durk added, walking away, leaving the man with the weight of his words. The tape itself became a psychological weapon. Leaked lines were dissected in forums, on social media, in group chats. Some were literal, some metaphorical, but every snippet carried meaning. Fans debated whether Durk was talking about business, street conflicts, or personal relationships, but the truth was, it was all of it. The line between the studio and the streets blurred. Every verse, every confession, every pause was a reflection of real consequences. Family and street loyalty collided in ways that were intense and unpredictable. One night, a younger artist Durk had been mentoring got wind of a leaked line suggesting he wasn't fully loyal. Panic set in. He called Durk late at night, voice shaking, trying to explain, trying to plead. Durk listened, silent for a long beat, then finally said, "I ain't looking for excuses. Just know where you stand." The weight of that line hit hard. The tape wasn't just about words. It was about accountability. Loyalty was tangible, and betrayal wasn't just disrespectful. It was dangerous. The turning point came during a studio session that was meant to be routine. Durk's circle was there, everyone on edge. Someone accidentally dropped a snippet from the tape into the speakers. The room went silent. All eyes on Durk. He didn't flinch. He simply walked to the console, leaned over, and whispered, "You feel that?" That's the sound of truth hitting the table. It was a lesson. The tape wasn't just his voice. It was a measure of integrity, influence, and awareness. Emotions ran high. Pride, ego, fear, and respect clashed constantly. There was one clip where Durk talks about the cost of fame and the cost of trust. "Some people go and smile in your face while counting the days they can move against you. That's why I watch. That's why I wait." The rhythm of his words felt like a sermon on the streets, a moral lesson disguised as casual reflection. The tape wasn't entertainment. It was education, and it was dangerous. As the leaks multiplied, rival crews began testing boundaries. Subtle challenges appeared in songs, in social media posts, even in casual encounters on the street. Durk stayed 2 steps ahead. He didn't respond publicly. He let the leaks speak, let the words themselves carry the weight of warning. One line, barely audible, "You play with mine, you play with fire," was enough to make certain people rethink their moves. The aftermath of these confrontations was intense. Former allies who had once been untouchable were now cautious, hesitant, calculating. Relationships strained. Meetings ended abruptly. Messages went unanswered. And all the while, Durk observed, recorded, analyzed. The tape wasn't just music. It was a ledger of human behavior, a blueprint for influence and survival. The pressure on Durk wasn't just external. Internally, he wrestled with the weight of what he had recorded. Some nights, he would listen to his own words, voice low, reflective, almost vulnerable. "I put everything on the line," he admits, and some still don't get it. The tape captured moments of doubt, of reflection, of fear, but always grounded in strategy. Every hesitation, every pause, every emphasis told a story about leadership, authority, and survival. Then came the most shocking twist. A trusted insider tried to manipulate the tape, leaking altered snippets to stir drama. When Durk found out, he confronted them privately. The conversation was electric. "You thought you could rewrite the story?" "Nah, this ain't over, bro," Durk said, voice calm but deadly. The insider realized immediately The tape wasn't just a document. It was a reflection of who controlled the narrative. Durk's control over truth and perception was unshakable. Emotional stakes intensified. People began questioning their own positions, second-guessing alliances. Durk's voice on the tape served as both mirror and warning. One young artist whispered to a friend, "He sees everything. It's like he knows before we do." And that's exactly the point. Durk's strategy wasn't aggression. It was observation, patience, and precision. The tape revealed the fragility of trust, the danger of ego, and the necessity of discipline. The tape also had a ripple effect on the industry. Producers, label executives, and collaborators had to reconsider their moves. A leaked snippet about business dealings hinted at potential shifts in partnerships. People who had previously underestimated Durk now approached him with caution, respect, even fear. The tape wasn't just a personal document. It was influence, power, and leverage in one package. The storm had fully arrived. Rivalries had escalated, alliances were tested, and the tape had solidified Durk's reputation, not just as an artist, but as a strategist, a leader, and a force in the streets. The tension was at its peak, and the narrative was far from over. Every leaked line, every whispered interpretation, every subtle reaction was a part of a larger game, and Durk was clearly 2 steps ahead, calm, deadly, and unshakable. The days following the height of the leaks were quiet on the surface, but underneath the streets were buzzing. Durk moved through his city differently now. Less a rapper, more a tactician. The tape had done its work. Rivals had learned, allies had revealed themselves, and the people who underestimated him were recalibrating fast. Every encounter, every phone call, every studio session carried a subtle tension. The tape had turned everything into a test, and everyone around him had to play by new rules. The first wave of fallout hit in unexpected ways. Some friends, long considered loyal, quietly distanced themselves, unsure if they could withstand the scrutiny the tape demanded. One evening, Durk confronted a childhood friend who had started behaving coldly, avoiding the studio. "You hiding or you just scared?" he asked, voice low, eyes steady. The friend's hesitation was all the answer he needed. "Nah, this ain't over, bro," Durk muttered, walking away. The line hung in the air like a shadow, a reminder that loyalty wasn't casual. At the same time, the tape had started shaping public perception in ways even Durk hadn't fully anticipated. Snippets went viral online, fans dissecting every pause, every word, every subtle threat. Social media became a minefield of speculation. Journalists wrote think pieces about his leadership, street credibility, and business acumen. Rappers mentioned it in their tracks indirectly, trying to ride the wave without provoking direct retaliation. Durk's words, once private, had become a cultural force. Personal relationships strained under the weight of exposure. Family members who had never wanted him in the spotlight were suddenly aware of just how deep the conflict ran. One recorded moment, barely audible, captures Durk saying, "I ain't just fighting for me, I'm fighting for mine." The phrase resonates like a mantra, a lesson about protection, boundaries, and consequences. He wasn't reckless. He was deliberate, ensuring that every move safeguarded those he cared about while sending a message to those who might test him. Rival crews, meanwhile, tested the waters carefully, trying to provoke reactions without overstepping boundaries. Durk, as always, stayed 2 steps ahead. One night, a subtle confrontation in a parking lot could have erupted into chaos, but he handled it with calm precision. "You think words scare me?" he said, voice low but unshakable. The rival's smirk faded instantly. The message was clear. The tape wasn't just music, it was authority, and authority isn't challenged lightly. Emotionally, Durk showed depth few could see. In quiet moments, he reflected on loyalty, trust, and the cost of influence. One clip captures him speaking softly into a mic. "People gon' test you, even when they love you. Some gon' fold, some gon' fight, and some gon' watch from the sidelines." The tape became a mirror, reflecting human behavior, ambition, fear, and desire. It wasn't just about exposing betrayal. It was about understanding it, learning from it, and using it to navigate the world. The aftermath also affected the music industry. Collaborations paused, album releases delayed, negotiations shifted. Labels and producers realized that Durk wasn't just a rapper. He was a strategist, capable of leveraging truth like currency. The tape had blurred the lines between art, life, and business. Every word mattered. Every pause carried weight. And the perception of power had shifted in his favor. By the 3rd week after the leaks, Some former adversaries attempted reconciliation, realizing the risks of prolonged conflict. Durk handled these moments with care, testing sincerity before extending trust. One late-night conversation summed it up. You want respect? Earn it. You want loyalty? Prove it. Nothing else matters. The words, calm yet firm, became a code for those in his circle. The tape was not just a recording, it was a standard, a moral and strategic compass for survival. The street lessons were brutal and clear. Trust was a currency, ego a liability, and perception everything. Every leak, every clip, every whispered story reinforced these. So now I turn it back to y'all. What do you think about this situation? Did Durk handle it the right way? Or did he go too far? Was the tape a necessary truth bomb or a dangerous play? Drop your thoughts below and make sure you subscribe, because this story isn't over. Every clip, every reaction, and every decision keeps rippling through the game. And if you think you've seen it all, trust me, you ain't seen nothing yet. The streets, the music, and the culture are watching, and the lesson is clear. In this game, words carry weight, and loyalty can be the difference between rising and falling. Durk showed how it's done, calm, calculated, and deadly. And now it's up to everyone else to learn or get left behind.